Like it's What's up, Austin? How's it going, buddy?
Going well, Frank. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So welcome everybody. Another episode of Frank After 40. Today we have Austin Page, and I am excited to hear his story and get into, we're going to talk some health. We're going to talk some nutrition. Hopefully we'll get into, I mentioned before we got on here just a few minutes ago about maybe some supplements. There's a lot to talk about in the health space, especially now that I feel like, in the last year or two, I've been in this space as well for quite a while and eating clean and focused on what's in our food and all that jazz. And hopefully we can get into a little bit of that. But I feel like ever since Robert Kennedy got into office, there's been, now that's like the beginning of a movement. Now I'm just seeing constant people in the grocery store, don't eat this meat, talk about it. So I'm really excited to have a lot of this conversation. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, for the most part. Jeff, I feel like it's been even that momentum of being more conscious about what you're putting into your body type of deal as far as your foods, the sources, where it's coming from, stuff like that. Has definitely been on a trending upward path even before RFK, but definitely now that he's in, it's brought more awareness, which I think is a good thing. Overall, it's a net positive. But I think some people are splitting hairs on some aspects. Nonetheless, I could ramble on about it, but yeah, I'm seeing some of the trends.
I'm interested to hear what you think people are splitting hairs on, because that'll be a fun conversation, because I have an idea of where you might go, but I'm not sure. But before we get into all that, why don't you tell everybody about what you do, where you're at, and then I can't wait to hear about, we like to go early years, talk about how you grew up, and then I want to hear your story, man. But tell us where you're at and what you do.
Yeah. So, thank you for the introduction, by the way. But my name's Austin Page. For those of you who don't know, I am located out of Richmond, Virginia, and I have been a coach for over a decade. In-person coach starting off, and now I do online and in-person coaching. And I've built my own business or brand into my own private gym that I'm currently in now. And it started from not even having this path of direction over 10 years ago, not knowing what I was doing with my life, sort of aimless, purposeless, and that got me into a lot of trouble, which involuntarily flipped the switch in my life to where I was like, hey, something needs to change for things to change, and that change needed to happen with me, person in the mirror. So it's taken a while, years of endless refinement of building the person I am today, and hopefully, leveling up from here. But that's that's me and what I do. I help people level up and find their own flip of the switch per se that can transition them into starting to build that person that they would admire.
I love it. Well, I always like to ask about early years in someone's life, because I find that a lot of times there's some connection between what happened to them when they were young, or how they grew up, or family life, and kind of where they end up. So I just think it's interesting. So tell me about, have you always lived there? Where did you grow up? Tell me about family life and kind of a Cliff's Notes version of how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, grew up in a great household, at least to what I think, and had older brothers, sisters, younger brothers and sisters. I was the middle child, bigger family, and came up great upbringing. Love my parents; they took great care of me. I never had any issues with anything, or never was neglected per se. But fast forward a little bit to my high school years. I went to private school for a good bulk of my high school years, and I think for me that sort of made me miss out on maybe some social aspects and friend groups and whatnot, and missing out on some of those things that you get going to public schools. Because this private school I went to, K through 12, there was a total of 40 people. So from 3 years old up to 18 years old, there was 40 people spanned. So there wasn't many cliques or friends per se that were even my age. And there was only one chick that was my age that I happened to date.
All the other guys were out of luck.
It's it was always yeah, straight up. I mean, it was. So it was a weird time, but I didn't know any differently, because I was 15, 16, 17, well, 13 through about 16, 17. And anyways, in my later years, almost about to graduate, I really wanted to go to public school. I felt like I was missing that aspect, and convinced my parents to let me go to public school. Went, and that's when I found my way into just wanting to be the popular guy, wanting to be known. It was my senior year. I didn't know any of these people. I wanted to be the party guy, the fun guy. So that went to me partying a lot, chasing things that weren't really making me happy, ultimately losing happiness in the same place I was looking for it. Drinking, drugs, partying, chasing chicks, things like that, that most younger guys, not everybody, but a lot of younger guys can
I don't
do.
know what you're talking about.
And I was different. Yeah. So chasing all that stuff that really wasn't returning to me, but at the immediate time, it made me feel good in the moment. It made me feel like I had some type of purpose, some type of confidence in me. It was all fake. And that led into college, obviously, me still wanting to be that guy, that persona, and having that identity of just sort of not knowing who I was ultimately, and chasing things that weren't really making me happy, but I thought they were. Long story short, went to a few parties, obviously, and one of these parties I went to, I wanted to get in my car and go home. I wanted to go sleep in my own bed that night. So got in my car. I don't remember getting in my car. Uh, People from the party weeks and months later told me that they Austin just disappeared. And went into my car, got in the car, went home, and made it about a mile away from the house. Typical story. Ran off the road, drunk, blacked out, don't remember, and flipped my car a couple times. And that's where things got real quick. Um, was obviously rescued by first responders, taken to the hospital, realized that I had ruptured my bowel or perforated my intestines, and broke both my legs from the knees down and some other injuries as well. But uh, it seemed like a twilight zone because I woke up in the hospital when I actually started to come to from being drunk and drugged up from the morphine or whatever they were giving me. I looked down to see this gaping hole in my stomach where they had left me open with a wound vac per se. It was almost like a sponge like material, and they left me open like that for a couple days. And most people just don't understand it, but it was a
I
gaping
saw
like
the
football
pictures.
sized hole.
I had to do a double take because I was like, is that his stomach?
Yeah,
I saw those pictures. That was pretty
yeah,
crazy.
yeah. They left me open, I think, for like 2 or 3 days like that to help pull out infectious juices, let things, I guess, quote unquote, heal. And it was mainly me fighting infection. Like that was going to be the ultimate end all for me was sepsis. The broken bones heal, stuff like that heals, but the infection is what was sort of in limbo for me, knowing if I was going to make it through or not. At least that's what the doctors, the chaplain, all those people were telling me. That things weren't looking good as far as my white blood cell, all those numbers. But fortunately, one day broke, started to heal, started to recover. This goes on for weeks. I stayed in the hospital for about 6 weeks and then was moved from the hospital to a rehabilitation center to where I learned how to do all like the simple things of life that we take for granted, like walking, getting yourself off the toilet, getting yourself out of bed, relearning all that stuff. Lived there for 2 months. And from there, I realized things needed to change as far as what I did, the actions, decisions I make, because obviously those things almost killed me. And it wasn't a complete 180 leaving that place. I still went and touched that hot stove a few more times, getting in trouble here or there. But ultimately, just realizing that I saw these patterns of going back down the wrong way, that I needed something bigger to lean into, bigger purpose. And that purpose was building myself instead of sabotaging, taking steps backwards with the party and the drinking, the chasing things that aren't truly bringing me happiness or building me. And long story short, started working out, built myself, and wanted to realize or wanted to see what I could do with it as far as making money, making a career out of it, a business. And reached out to a local Gold's Gym, started personal training, did that for a few years, did very well with it, and realized there was something I could do my own. I really wanted to do on my own and make it my own business, my own brand. So a couple years back, took the leap and been doing it for myself for about 4 or 5 years now.
That's awesome. So if I look back, a lot of us have had some sort of similar path, right? We've had some areas where we're like, okay, we need to make a change or going down that wrong
Yeah.
path or tempted to go down the wrong path. What could someone have said to you at that time before you got in that car or around that time that would have helped you say, I need to make this change now? Was there anything anyone could do, or did it have to be an experience like that woke you up to be like, I am not on the right path?
I don't think anybody. People told me. My parents. I mean, they never knew that I was drinking and driving. They knew that I was partying a little hard, and they knew I was drinking
Yeah.
underage and then underage during those times. Just almost living like I was 10 foot tall and
Mm-hmm.
bulletproof,
Yeah.
and I thought
Yeah,
I
of
was
course.
right. Nothing would ever happen to me. I wouldn't hurt my own self. I'm not dumb. And no, nothing.
Thinking like that
For me,
is, we all do it. I do the same thing. That's dumb. You know what I mean? It's like, what? Yeah.
yeah, yep. No, no, nobody. Because people were telling me back then, you're gonna hurt yourself. You're gonna end up locked up. You're gonna, who knows? You could kill yourself. You aren't going down a good path at all. Like we've seen this before.
Yeah.
They don't know what they're talking about. I know
Yeah,
what I'm doing.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder because there's going to be people that listen to this and say, they're there or they're, and there's probably nothing anyone can say to them, but I think that's the tough part.
I think a lot of people, not everybody has to go through something like I went
Sure.
through, a literally like life-changing event like that, but it could be maybe a health scare.
Yep.
It could be maybe you losing your partner, your spouse, your wife, your husband, for you doing actions or habits that aren't aligned with whatever. It could be you losing your job. There's got to be a pain point for sure, and it was for me. Even though I almost lost my life during that wreck, like I said, it wasn't a complete 180 once I left that rehab center, of not finding my way back into trouble and starting to party a little bit, getting back into my old ways and old habits. That I sort of cut the head off the snake per se after a couple close calls. I was like, whoa, I'm going back down the same path. I'm going to be there before I know it. I'm going to be dead or locked up. Uh, and the pain of changing outweighed the pain of staying the same.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Or vice versa.
Yeah, no.
I might have messed that up, but nonetheless, there was a pain point that made me was like, I'm done. Like I got to change, and if ultimately if I wanted to be happy with myself, I need to change because I realized deep down why I was chasing those things is because I wasn't.
Yeah. Gotcha. So, well, before we get into like the working out and that kind of stuff, let's talk a little bit of business. So, how did you go? How has it been growing your business? We'll have a lot of entrepreneurs that are going to see this, and it's not easy. I'm an entrepreneur, multiple companies.
Yeah.
It's not easy. So, I'm just curious what you have found to be difficult, what you have found rewarding. What are you constantly challenged with? Talk to me about the business and how you've gone on your own and how that's been.
For me, ultimately, this is for me. I'm sure other people, there's other factors that drive people, right? That give them that fire. But for me, it had to be more than just money.
Mm-hmm.
There had to be a bigger purpose than that. And obviously, changing myself and seeing what it's done for me in my own life and the way I feel, because ultimately, like we all want to feel a certain way. We want to feel good about ourselves. We want to feel confident, and that, it's kind of relatable and it crosses over is like you taking care of yourself physically and mentally, regardless of what else is going on in your life. If you can really like build yourself, just work on you, the inward you, it makes life a little bit more not easy, but things like the little problems of the day to day aren't really that big of a deal when you're putting yourself through hard workouts, holding some discipline or standard to yourself with what you eat, what you drink, who you hang out with, who you listen to. You're able to focus on those things you can control, which is you yourself. And for me, I think getting to like the business side and how I've been able to like grow it and be where I'm at today is focusing on replicating what I did with myself and trying to find where other people are at and get them to sort of walk the path with me. Because I lead by example. Like it's not the best way to lead; it's the only way. And I think that helps. Whether it's a business, and from leadership down, it's like, are you doing any of the things? Are you talking the talk? Or are you just walking the walk, right? We're only as good as the example we set. So I think for me, it's having a little bit more purpose or a higher purpose than just the money, of actually helping people is a great focus, at least for me. And the money typically comes when people start to see results or see progress within themselves. Obviously, that all takes care of themselves. Uh, and just feeling good, like that's what everybody wants. They want to feel good, and that's fortunately where I can come in and make that pretty quick, simple change of just focusing on themselves.
What made you decide? I'm making some assumptions, so if I'm wrong, tell me. It's First Form, right? And is that something you started? And how did you decide to start your own gym instead of just like using another gym or like just doing sessions? Like, are you creating an ecosystem? Like, I'm just trying to understand, like, what made you do what the way you did it?
I apologize. This first form shirt, that's a supplement company that I
Oh,
run.
okay.
Yeah, so my gym is called GymFlo, or my coaching business is called GymFlo,
Gotcha.
GYMFLO. And that started, it, it's kind of crazy. It kind of evolved as there's a saying that I heard a while back, and it, it definitely reiterates like the direction or how I got here is the path illuminated as I walked it. I started to build myself. I started to take those steps forward into physical, mental discipline, having better habits, daily habits that would kept me aligned with the person I wanted to be instead of falling back into that old ways and old habits that got me unhappy and not the person I wanted
Yep.
to be, the person that I really just didn't like. Um, and obviously got into personal training. And that at first, when I started working for that Gold's Gym, it wasn't what I had thought. I was training people, I was helping people get better physically, but there was still a mindset thing that was missing in that because it was come in, I'll see you once a week, and I won't see you until next week. Hopefully, you do what you should be doing, blah blah blah. But people would get results 6 to 8 weeks, 12 weeks, but once they would get to a certain point, they would usually let go or fall back or fall off completely, and I wouldn't see them for months or weeks. And it was because a mindset shift, a new identity hadn't been created into holding that new standard or version of yourself and living that way. And those little goals are great, but once I realized that it was deeper than just these once a week training things, it needed to be a little bit more encompassing about like mindset training and generally mindset training is just doing things you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. That's a simple way to say it, but uh, encompassing a little bit more into that and the lifestyle and or habits need to be created to get those sustained long results and create that just ultimately new version of you, not just dropping 20 pounds and all right, we're good, we can go back to our old ways now. Because I was getting frustrated with that, and that's what sort of led me to where I'm at today, and like evolving it into being a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more niche. And I'm not training as many people, but I'm going deeper with these people.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Okay. So it's you're really just going deep with them and you're really there not just once a week, but in between. One of
Yeah,
the difficulties I see in when I coach my business clients and I talk to them, sometimes it bleeds into nutrition and the rest of their life, right? Um, Discipline always seems to be an issue. And I think it's because you have to want it bad enough, know why you're doing it, that kind of thing. But um, how do you help people is it just the doing it for 90 days or 30 days so they don't break the cycle of that habit? Like, it's I think it's just really difficult, right? And so to have that discipline and not to
yeah.
do the cookies and not to surround yourself with good food and then still not crack or not that you can't do it once in a while, but talk to me about
For
talk to me about the
sure.
discipline piece and how you help people overcome that part.
So for me, and I've used it myself, and I try and get most of my clients to think about it this way to help bring discipline. Because at first, yeah, it's gonna be tough. Just doing anything new,
Yeah.
right? Not just fitness, health, diet, whatever. Learning how to play guitar for the first time is probably pretty tough. And what you try and do is, or at least for me, is break it down into like, all right, a brand book, a personal brand book. What does Frank's brand book look like? What does that future version of him look like? What does he wear? How does he show up? What does he do day to day? What type of job does he have? Where does he live? I mean, you don't have to have all those things in it, but like, what does that future version of you look like? Okay, what daily actionable things can I start to implement or that I need to follow and adhere to, or at least be aligned with, that is going to produce and build that person I want to become? And everything else that doesn't fall in line with that person that I've sort of written out and envisioned, I shouldn't be doing anymore. It's, success is a removal, typically a subtractive process. It's never really a ton of adding.
Mm.
It's a lot of things, more so is removing of just the things that aren't aligned with the person you want to be. And most likely that's just going to shoot you off like a rocket, sometimes faster, sometimes slower than others. But it's going to remove anchors and let some of the good habits that are left do their thing. And I think it starts off with figuring out who you want to be. And it's hard at first, but there's people around us that we admire, right? There's somebody that we follow on social media or we see it within our own lives, whether it's somebody's dad or somebody's uncle, or it doesn't have to be a guy, it could be a girl, whatever. there's somebody that you admire and you like the way they conduct themselves. You like what they have going on. They seem like they have it all together. They hold themselves to a certain standard. When they show up to events or to a room, you're like, damn, that person's got it. And start to break down. All right, how does that person conduct themselves? Do you think they eat this or they eat that? Do you think they drink this or they drink that? Do you think they skip this or they skip that? How do they conduct themselves? You don't have to become them, but implement some of those habits that they're doing. And it's that simple. I mean, it goes a little bit deeper
Yeah.
than that, of course, but it's a simple way to get yourself off the ground and holding some type of discipline. Like, all right, what's aligned with that person I want to be, and one day at a time, trying to make the best decisions and actions that are ultimately in the same path as them.
I like how you put that success is more of a taking things away than adding things. I think that's really smart. I love the way you put that. I always talk to my clients about elimination, delegation, or automation, right? And that's kind of
Yeah.
elimination, but the way you said it is
Yeah.
really cool. I agree with that. So talk to me about limiting beliefs. I see a lot of my clients, they always have limiting beliefs, and it's amazing how quick and easily they pop back into your brain. How do you get people to
Yeah.
walk through that or to eliminate a limiting belief when they come to you? Because I'm sure people have those when they come to you.
So there's exercises or actions that you can implement to start building belief in general into yourself, right? Like if you don't have much belief in you at all, or put these limiting beliefs like, oh, I can't do this, or I don't have time for that, whatever. We all
Yeah,
say it. I still
sure,
do.
of
I'm not
course.
perfect. I'm no saint. Uh, but starting, I mentioned this earlier, is controlling the things that you can control, and it's very like a stoic-esque process or way of thinking. It's what can you control and focus on doing that to start. And when you can control or bring some type of discipline, maybe to your wake up time, like setting an alarm and saying, all right, I'm getting up at this time. I'm not hitting snooze and whatever. Again, you might fail, whatever. But the more you can just hold a standard to the things that you can control, your wake up time, what you eat, what you drink, who you hang around with, who you listen to, what you do with your body, all those things we truly do have control over, regardless of what's going on with Tom, Dick, and Harry over there, or this part of the family over here, or your boss. You can still control those things. And the moment you can start to maybe build a daily process of like some actionable things like that, like, all right, I'm gonna set my wake up time for this time so I can wake up, make time for that workout or that walk that I always say I wanted to do, but I keep pushing it off to Monday, or that I'm going to set time aside on Sunday, wake up earlier or stay up later, whatever, to prepare some meals for the next couple of days so I can control what I eat instead of just, oh, I'm going to eat whatever's at work today because I that's what I got to do. Is no, we can backwards plan and control those things. And the moment you can start to hold a little bit of a structure to those things, those just the things you can control, and you start to win one day at a time. All right, I woke up. Damn, I woke up at 5 instead of 6 this morning. Damn. Okay, I can do that. You start to build little wins and little confidence because those actions or like that work is what builds the belief over time. It's like a skill, right? And breaking those self-limiting beliefs, which is just lack of confidence, is, or for the most part, is done through like repetitions. And the more you can do something that, no matter how little, even like I said, waking up a little bit earlier, it builds a little bit more belief in you. Like, damn, okay, I followed through on that. I held my own word, and that's probably the biggest part. Is like, man, I can do
Yeah.
shit. And it's the more streaks, the more W's you can lay out in a row across the calendar, the more proof of concept or proof of confidence in yourself you build. But vice versa, if you miss, you keep missing, it's only going to dig a deeper and deeper hole and put a bigger mound of dirt in front of you where you're like, damn, I suck, man. Like, but you can break that by just drawing. Again, it's like you. I think you mentioned earlier, you got to hate your situation enough, or you got to have
A why, like a big enough
this,
number. Yeah.
yeah, a why, yeah, big enough why of like, hey, whether it's my kids or, and most of the time that's what it needs to be, a bigger purpose outside of you. If you can't do it for you, do it for, is the way you're living, the way you're conducting yourself, the way you're showing up daily, is it inspiring somebody or is it giving them a bad example? Like that's one thing that helps me get out of bed. It's like, not for me. I mean, yeah, of course I want to live a certain way, look a certain way, feel a certain way, but is my life inspiring anybody? If not, then what like, you don't have to be some, Greek god or like this higher than whatever version of whatever, but there has to be some type of mission behind it, whether it is higher than you, like somebody else, or other people around you, your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever, and living into that, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think and everybody's different, right? So, but I think you're right. You got to know what it is. And like you said, I find that sometimes the most powerful reasons people come up with are for other people, not just themselves. So I think your kids, your family, or
It
whatever,
helps.
right? So for sure. Okay, so um, we get past the limiting beliefs and we get past the mindset troubles. There's so much being said in the health space right now. And every time I see somebody new come on, and I consume a lot of health content, a lot of nutritional content, like what's going on, what should people drink and eat and supplement and work out. And I almost feel like it's great that it's coming out, but I wonder sometimes if it's getting overwhelming for the average person. And they're like, I'm over it. Like I'm over, there's a funny Instagram, there's a guy and he's on Instagram and he plays clips of voices, but it's him and he's in the kitchen and he's about to make breakfast and it says, and then he plays a clip from something, it's the voice and it's like, whatever you do, don't eat oatmeal because if you eat oatmeal, here's what happens. And so you see him throwing the oatmeal out and then he goes to something else he grabs and he's like, okay. And he starts cooking an egg and they're like, don't eat an egg because if it's not pasture raised, it's this. And it's this long video and it's so funny. And so I'm just curious for you, like, where do you start with people and how do you help them navigate all the noise right now, whether it's supplements or working out, and how do they start and what should they be doing? Where are you taking them?
Yeah. Well, for the most part, a lot of people that start working with me, they already have a lot of bad habits per se, of like whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, or because I work with a good amount of people that are in my group or in recovery or
Okay.
sobriety themselves, and so they already had maybe some bad habits and bad lifestyles to begin with, and I'm like, hey, you might hear these things, and ultimately at the end of the day, you know, anything can
Yeah.
kill you, right? Most things overdone can kill you. So, what's best to do is instead of having paralysis by analysis of listening to Tom, Dick, and Harry on TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram about, oh, you better eat this, better start doing that. Uh, let's just put some simple tasks together of like, all right, we're going to focus on not what you should eat, but how much of what you should eat, or how much you should eat, and start with there. And then from there, we can fine tune on like, all right, maybe let's focus on these food choices, maybe some whole food choices instead of some of those processed things. I'm very simple when it comes to the coaching. I don't typically tell people what they should eat. I tell people how much they should eat. And I, of course, give like help. Like if somebody's like, I don't even know where to start still, though. It's like, all right, well, let me build out a meal plan and like actually get down to the nuts and bolts with you, do that. But I typically don't restrict people or tell them like, hey, they can't have this, they can't have that, because I I eat what I want, but it's all within a certain amounts, right?
Mhm.
And it's called, at least for me, it's called tracking macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fats for the day. And if you hit those numbers with pizza, you can hit it with pizza if you want. If you hit it with chicken breast, you can hit it with chicken breast. It doesn't matter to me. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're probably building some better habits. We're probably eating a little bit better. We're at least being mindful, aware with what we're eating. So live life and don't live stressed like that. I don't know. For me, fortunately, I people send me. I do have people that send me videos like that on Instagram.
Yeah.
Some of my clients or just friends that whatever are always asking questions. I'm like, unfollow that person as quickly as possible because they're gonna leave you afraid and
Yeah.
fearful with everything. I'm
Yeah.
like, just consciously probably what you should be doing. Start doing that. Stop doing less or start doing less of what you know you shouldn't be doing. And you're like, we all have this conscious in us that knows, all right, I shouldn't eat that. Right. I should avoid that a little bit more. I know that's overdoing it.
Yeah.
Like, and just listen, like, keep it simple. I mean, at least for me, everybody that's gotten crazy transformations results and continuing to do that is it's nothing overly complicated and or I'm never fear
Yeah.
mongering. Like there's something weird to it, man. And I wish I had a little bit better like explanation on like how to fix that or why. But
I,
I dumb it down.
yeah. It sounds like what you're saying is most people, it's like, don't drink Mountain Dew, let's keep it simple. And this other stuff is more like, okay, now you got a six pack. How do we get really, like, that's really extreme. So
Yeah, there's
yeah,
levels to
for
it.
sure.
Yeah. But ultimately, it's pretty simple moving forward. And I guess the question you could ask yourself, outside of whatever anybody's spewing out on their TikTok or their Instagram that you see that's trending or viral, is this thing I'm about to put in my body, is it serving me or not?
Yeah.
Do I think it's going to serve me? And
Yeah.
I know, like you probably know. All right, is that thing serving me or not? Okay, it is. All right, I'm probably going to choose that. If it's not serving me, I know it's just purely pleasure or some dopamine hit or whatever. All right, let me avoid that. Maybe not remove it completely from my life, but let me eat less of that, focus on
Yeah.
this.
I think that,
You can do both.
yeah. 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 So, if we're talking about working out, obviously it seems nowadays there's really a large focus on muscle mass for longevity and all that. And then you have to eat a lot of protein. So I'm just curious what you're instructing a lot of your people to do as far as mix on, I don't want to say cardio. I guess now would be the term would be VO2 max. Like, what are you doing to like make sure your endurance
Yeah.
is good, and then also weightlifting? So are you merging the two? And I know every case is different, but in general, what are you finding works for people, and what are you having your clients do?
Yeah. For the most part, dropping as much body fat as possible, as quickly as possible, helps overall endurance and output, at least for with my clients. The less they weigh, the more endurance and output they'll get. And while they're doing that, there's some type of structured weight training because, like you said, muscle mass is very important, not only for the aesthetics, for the
Yeah.
looks, but having that extra muscle mass typically correlates with better overall health. And when you're doing that, focused on some type of structured regimen or not structured regimen, some type of plan as far as your eating, not eating whatever you want because that got us to where we don't want to be typically, but having some type of discipline with it, monitoring what goes in it, uh, and structure that with some training. They typically blend themselves. The next thing you know, uh, because of losing body fat and increasing muscle mass, their overall VO2 max goes up just indirectly. But yeah, there's things that other people need that additional cardio, whether they have other health issues going on or whatever, like it is case to case. But typically, I don't get many people to add in a ton of extra cardio or running or maybe occasional walking just to get some blood moving or some steps in. But uh, I try and let the nutrition do most of the work.
And how important do you think? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but you're the expert. It feels like, in my opinion, nutrition is a majority of the difference. I mean, working out matters, obviously, but you got to get your diet right, and that's where you see the results. Do you agree with that, or am I wrong, or what are your thoughts on that?
No, 100%. 100%. We all have seen somebody or know somebody that goes to the gym multiple days a week, does hours of cardio, and still looks the same or most likely worse over time. And it's because they aren't monitoring or putting a filter. Not to say we can't enjoy foods or whatever, but like they're oblivious to what they're putting in their body, thinking they can outwork it. And that's ultimately going to leave you frustrated and not making much progress and or burning yourself out. So the food is what, I mean, if you think about it, the food is truly what brings the weight on. It's food and lack of activity, obviously. But if one culprit is you're just overeating, everybody's just overeating if they have an excess amount of body fat. And to reverse that, you feed the body less, it loses the weight. You don't even have to work out, really. You could just eat less and you'll lose weight. But we obviously want to build some muscle tone and don't look like a sack of potatoes once we lose a bunch of
Yeah,
weight.
yeah.
But no, it's the food. It's the food 100%. Like, I mean, probably not 100%, but it's a good 80, 90% of the root cause is food.
What do you find? One of the struggles that I have myself is getting enough protein in the day. I mean, I at one point was tracking my macros. Now I don't. I'm not right now, but I know I'm not getting the amount of protein I need, which would be for me about
Yeah.
180 grams of protein. And I'm like, holy cow, when I think about it. So like when it comes to like supplementation to make it easy for someone who's not a huge eater, I used to be a big faster and now it's just about, I try and focus on protein, but what kind
Yeah.
of supplementation as far as shakes and stuff, how do people pick the right supplements or the right shakes? Cause then they're like, okay, is whey good for you? Is it not? And getting clean protein and plant-based versus whey.
Yeah.
What kind of direction do you give people on that? Any?
I don't typically give them any direction. I wish I had 'cause I don't. At the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers for
Okay.
me. So as long as you can get close to those numbers, however
Yeah.
possible, because at the end of the day, when you digest it, protein breaks down into amino acids in your gut. Carbohydrates, whether it's potatoes, rice, or sour patch kids, that gets broken down into glucose in your body. In your gut. So ultimately, it ends up as the same thing. I mean, yes, they're better
Yeah.
sources and less processed
Yeah.
shit that we want to eat,
That's kind of
but
what I meant. Yeah.
overall, we do want to probably focus on some whole food as much as possible. But I do, for the amount of protein that I eat a day, yeah, I'm definitely incorporating like 2 to 3 servings of whey
Okay.
protein of some aspect into my day. And I typically like whey just because it's the most generic one out there. It's the most available one out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can find a great plant-based one. You can find other
Yeah.
proteins as well, as far as like the grass-fed, protein isolates,
Yeah.
all the differences.
But you're like, just get
I
it
just
in.
stick with the just get it in. And I'm not too. I sound like a robot when I say that. I'm like, oh, I just
Yeah.
hit the numbers, I do the workout, blah blah blah. But it's taken over time, over time to just going back to the beginning of like splitting hairs of like,
Yeah.
all right, should I focus on this little thing or that little thing? No, let me just focus on the basics of let me get this in, let me hit the number, let me get the workout in, and let me drink some water and do that one day at a time. And damn, a lot of things when you can just focus on those couple little things a day over compounding days, a lot can change. But if you're stuck on like, oh, should I do this or do that? Like at first, just nail down the basics and become a pro at that or really good. And once you get good at that, then like getting those abs, but you want to go to the next level, then we can start to fine tune. Okay, instead of doing that whey protein, let's go with that whey protein isolate or that grass fed one. And let's start adding that in and see what it does, or how our body reacts to that. But at first, I think just to get hopefully the general most people going is just focus on those little base
Yeah.
hits daily of like just hitting the number, just doing what I said I was going to do, and then over time, once you have enough proof on the board of like, oh, I've been able to stick with that. Now let me fine tune it. Let me dial this little thing in here, this little thing over there, and squeeze out that extra 5% over there, or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, for me, I don't typically. There are a few people that I do tell them, hey, you have no, we have very little discipline at all right now. So I'm going to tell you exactly meal by meal what you're going to
Yeah.
be eating because your results are my
Yeah.
results. So I'm going to, I don't coddle people a ton, but out the gate, if I don't see much movement, I'm like, all right, let me take the wheel. I'm going to steer this thing for you because your way of thinking has not gotten you
Yeah.
anywhere. So, but for the most part, I let people have free range on what they want to do. And if they feel like it's not good for their health, all right, we'll choose something else as long as it hits those numbers or as close. I mean, it's not about being perfect. It's like horseshoes and hand grenades with those. I'm not very strict with myself. It's, if you get close one day at a time, you're going to have some changes in a good way.
Gotcha. Okay. So, what are the top three things or misconceptions or what you think like, hey, don't that people are paying attention to that shouldn't? And maybe what are three that they're not paying attention to that they should?
Yeah. Uh, I think a lot of people are paying attention to like some of these. I don't, I guess I'm going to call them this because, for lack of better terms, but like fad diets like
Mhm.
keto, carnivore, or whatever else is out there. Um, because it's very restrictive. And it's a big thing that working with people that have either tried to lose weight themselves and now they want to come on because they've been frustrated by trying to follow
Yeah.
these things and or they just follow in the crowd or following TikTok or Instagram because that's the next hottest
Yep.
thing. And it's like the question I ask is, all right, can you do it? Can you do this for the rest of your life? Because obviously, like it's something. If you can't, and it's kind of a fad thing. You aren't going to be able to do it sustainably. And for me, I'm going to keep harping on the macro thing. Is
Mhm.
because if you do just follow those numbers, you can fill it in with whatever you want. There's nothing restrictive about it. It restricts how much you can
Yeah.
eat, but it doesn't hold restriction on what you can eat.
I
If you know what I'm
gotcha.
saying. So it still lets you live and whatnot. So that's probably why one big let's peeve thing for me is uh, people falling not into a trap because maybe that helps them get the initial weight off, but then they're so caught up in it with their identity that they like get burnt out on trying to stick with it. It's like that's not the only way. It's probably not the most sustainable way by restricting a whole food like thing on the pyramid
Yeah.
of what you could eat and still make progress results. Next thing would probably be uh probably be I hate to say it, Uh, there's something great about it though, because I do it involuntarily some days with fasting. Not that it doesn't work. It does work. But it's not like that's what's again like. Are you going to do that for forever? But it is great, I think, for a mental aspect, spiritual aspect too. It's done through religion for thousands of years for
Yeah.
fasting because it helps get you more and it makes you think a lot. It makes you realize that you have more control, and I think that helps build discipline to it as well. But I don't think a lot of people when they the reason I bring it up is because they'll reach out to me or start with me on the program or within my group. Yeah, I'm going to start fasting. And it's like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
We can make it. We don't. I mean, it's great if you want to help build some discipline and restricting yourself to eat throughout these windows, but it's not the only way to lose weight.
It's
And probably not for most of these people. They start to like try and get too fancy with it. And it's just like, hey, let's just have a calorie intake for the day and let's not
yeah.
go over that number. And we're going to start getting in the right direction. But I can't think of a third thing off the top of my head. But those are two things
It's
that popped up. But I think fasting's great again.
well, it seems
But some
from what
people
it seems
they
like
get too fancy.
recently, it seems like fasting's not as great as they thought on a regular basis. It's more like 1 day to 3 days once in a while, and that's it.
Yeah,
And otherwise, get your protein in. Is it kind of what I'm seeing out there? So,
yeah.
um,
I agree. I agree. I think it's great. I do think it's great. Uh, it probably does give your digestive system a little bit of a break for
yeah,
sure. And again, I'm big on the mental aspect and mindset. And I think anything that can help sharpen that and build some internal discipline with the thing that you can control, which is, hey, restricting myself from eating for the
yeah,
day. Okay, that's a big deal. That's obviously the root cause of many of the people that I work with is just they can't control what these two things pick up and put into their mouth. Like they just can't do it. If a beer comes in front of them, I can't say no to them. If a piece of pizza comes in front of them, I can't say no. And that's the root problem. It's just being able to say no and or not eat the entire thing or not drink the entire thing. And fasting is a great tool for many people to probably build some just discipline of being able to say no to yourself for a few hours. It's
yeah,
tough. It's tough for a lot of people. They can't listen to themselves, and I don't either most days. I'm just stubborn
yeah,
too, but I think it's a great tool. I can.
yeah. Okay, cool. So is there anything, before I ask you where people can find you, is there anything in general that you're like, hey, this is important that we didn't cover? Or anything that you're like, hey, I want people to take this away from today? Is there anything in general that you want them to know or take away?
No, it's just mainly that you can create momentum, and I kind of hit on it a little bit, but it's something that I reinforce and bring up a lot within my group is you can create a lot of momentum with yourself, even if you feel like it's just impossible or hopeless or like, man, it's not for me. Like everybody else seems to be able to do it, it's just not in the cards for me. It's just when you literally sit back, like today, after you listen to this, and think about your actions and your decisions over the past week and think about, all right, let me literally think about last week. What did I eat? What was I eating? Did I work out at all? Did I get that exercise on? Did I do those little things that I said I was going to start? And if not, or if I did, are those things over the last 7 days, were they aligned with the person that I truly want to be and like start to build in myself the way I want to conduct myself? If not, all right, let's reevaluate. We got a fresh week ahead. Well, it's the end of the week now, but here in a couple of days, we'll have a fresh week ahead to lay out our backwards plan. So that's mainly what we do in my group. I'm a simpleton, man. So let's take accountability of the week. All right, we have a schedule over the next Monday to Sunday. What's that schedule going to look like? What's work look like? What's the kids look like? What's family look like? What's errands, whatever. Let me write that down. Let me backwards plan in. All right, I'm going to cook some food here for the week. I'm going to get these workouts here, here, and here. I'm going to get take care of this there. Like it's just taking accountability with the day. And once you can do that thing and write all those things that you can control out and backwards plan it for a week at a time, like damn, okay, I actually have some structure now instead of just shooting from the hip every day, hoping that like the perfect time is going to line up for me to get that done, or the perfect time is going to line up for me to go get that to eat. No, just backwards plan and try and hold to that as best you can. Not about being perfect, but really give yourself some structure. Uh, and if you can do that, stack enough W's Monday through Sunday. Doesn't have to be all W's, but more W's than
Yeah.
L's. You start to create momentum, man. It's like a progress bar. The more deposits you make into that bank account that is you, that newer version of you, the more that bank account compounds. And next thing you know, over 30, 60, 90 days, your life starts to change. The way you start to show up changes. The way you see in the mirror starts to change, you know? It's done one day at a time. And it's the only thing we have today is like today. You know, yesterday we can't change and tomorrow we can't really do anything about. It's what we're doing today that matters.
Love it. Love it, man. Where can people find you if they want to find you? Where do you want them to go?
Yeah, check me out. Follow me on Instagram. I'm super active on there. That's pretty much the only thing that I'm on. I do have a YouTube, GymFlo Coaching on YouTube. I do post once a week on there, some vlogs and some videos. But I'm super active on Instagram daily, either posting about clients, things that work for me, things that work for them, or asking Q&As within my stories. So give me a follow, hit me up if you have any questions. Let's get active.
Cool. Austin, I appreciate it, man. It's I'm glad that you're here and you made it through that crazy story, and thank you for sharing it. But I'm glad you're now fulfilling your potential and changing lives. That's amazing, man.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man. All right, everybody. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.